Today is May 2nd, and I so was not ready for this day to come or excited about today to come because today is a very triggering day for me, May 2nd. So, a year ago today is when I got into a situation, an altercation with my son's father, and it led to him pretty much having an episode, and that episode led to him being shot 10 times. Um, I have a lot of grace for him because I know if he had control of himself, he wouldn't have never put himself in the situation or in a circumstance for anything that happened last year, today, on this day last year to ever happen. He's not an evil person. He's not a hateful person. He's actually very soft, very loving, and very gentle, but he has unhealed trauma. And for those of us who know about trauma and unhealed trauma, you know how that works. If it's not taken care of, if it's unresolved, it comes out, and when it comes out, it's not pretty. Um, he suffers with mental health issues. Um, and these are things we've talked about, we've discussed. One thing I will say is me and him had conversations that most people in relationships don't have. Not all the time those conversations were understood, and a lot of times they were, but there was times when, he didn't quite understand where I was coming from, and I didn't understand where he was coming from, but for the most part, we've had very, very deep conversations. So talking about his mental health wasn't something that um he was uncomfortable to do, um, or to talk about with me, because y'all know I've been through my own share of traumatic experiences, spiritual attacks. I've been through my own pain, struggle, and ups and downs in life. So that is something that we both was very comfortable with sharing, is our pain and things that we've experienced. However, for some reason, it's so much easier for people to hurt the ones that love them, or for those who suffer from mental health issues, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, personality disorders. When we suffer with these types of things, it's just so much easier to lash out on those that are around us and those that actually love us and that are there to support us, because when they are correcting us, it feels uncomfortable, it hurts. So that night kind of um shed light on a lot of things. I didn't know at the time how to deal with someone with the disorders that he had, bipolar disorder, and I didn't know how to deal with anyone, that suffered from that, because in my marriage with my husband, he suffered from certain things, but it was never like, disorders, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. It wasn't things like that. He had an addiction, a drug addiction. And so I understood how to deal with that side of the spectrum, but never with someone who suffers from mental health issues, because most people who have them hide them. And so, there are certain things that I would have definitely done differently that day, but it's not much that I really could have changed. And a year later, I do understand how divinely orchestrated that whole day was. Although, you know, a year later, he's incarcerated, fighting for his freedom, fighting attempted murder charge, healing still. I'm sure he's still healing, physically, mentally, spiritually. Like, I would never wish that on him, or anybody, but especially the person that I love and I wanted to spend my life with. Um, but it definitely took us down two different paths. You know, um, it led me to a lighter path and it led him to a darker path. But I totally believe that the path that he's on right now is going to um change him in a better way. And nobody wants to hear that that's in jail. You know what I mean? It takes a level of understanding. It takes a level of maturity to get that. And if you get it, you get it. But I feel like his situation is going to eventually be his testimony. I'll just say that. Um, and we are not yet able to see eye to eye. It's still a lot of hurt. It's a lot of pain that has not been addressed. A lot of things that have not been said. Um, because the outcome is two different outcomes. My outcome is I was fortunate and saved through the situation. I was able to, you know what I mean, keep my freedom. And I didn't do anything to jeopardize my freedom, but it led to me, finding myself again. And it led to him kind of being in a dark space, going through, the dark night of the soul. Come on, Al. You can just only imagine, the things that, and I have grace, and compassion for him. But at the same time, I'm learning to love and have compassion for myself. And I always, make excuses for people who do me wrong or people who cross me or people who stab me in the back or people who hurt me that are supposed to love me. I'm learning to not make excuses for them because I'm really good at doing that, And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And he was wrong that day, but he did not deserve to be shot 10 times. However, we're, like I said, we're not really seeing eye to eye enough to have a relationship, to have a friendship, or any of those things. We don't really talk. He reached out a handful of times. The last time I spoke with him was in March, and I was very grateful to talk to him. I have been wanting to talk to him, but I go from wanting to talk to him to not wanting to talk to him, to wanting to talk to him to not wanting to talk to him. So, my emotions, like he has no idea the shit that I went through because of that situation. Like he probably thinks in his mind that it's all sweet and shit for me out here, and it wasn't. I grieved and grieved and grieved and grieved him. I buried my daughter's dad and I buried my husband. That was very triggering for me. I felt like I lost him. And to this day, I still feel like I've lost him, even though he's physically still here. Well, not well, but he's physically still here and alive. I hope he's doing well. Um, it still hurts and it's still very triggering. I loved the fuck out of Manir. Like, I loved him. And I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for him. But we just are not there. We're not in alignment at this moment in time in our lives to where we are able to um deal with and talk about what we experienced a year ago. However, I do understand that soulmates have a way of expressing their innermost feelings to each other. Like he called twice and literally said nothing but I love you. And at first I was a little bit bothered by that, but now I understand and see, that's all he really needed to say. Like I wanted more, but that's what the universe gave me, and that's probably all I needed. That those three words mean a lot. Because he could have called and said I hate you. He could have called and said bitch. He could have called and said all type of fucked up things, but he called and said I love you. So that lets me know that even though he's struggling, um, he is he does know he wrong. You know what I mean? Um, but I'm saying all that to say I might have to make another video. But I'm saying all that to say, last year today was just a fucking awful day. It was a nightmare. It was rainy. It was dark. It was just a very dark day. I'm gonna make another video because I have more to say.